Okay, so I saw the new Bill and Ted movie this weekend, and I really wanted to like this movie, and I did. Haha, faked you out. But no, before I get into it, I did a couple of videos on this channel about specifically this new Bill and Ted movie. I've talked about how much I enjoyed the previous ones and how important they were to me as I was growing up and whatnot. But so of course, because of that, I've gotten a million people asking if I'd seen the new movie. So even though the last couple of videos did not hardly get any, what accent am I slipping into here? What is happening? Now, the last two videos got the worst views of pretty much anything that I've done recently on this channel. So I'm going to do another one. But anyway, yeah, the wife and I, we actually went out to the theater to see this one. This is the first time we've been to the theater probably since February, because we actually don't get to the theater that often anyway. If nothing else, it was good to just kind of feel normal again for a minute and go out to a theater and watch a movie on the big screen. So on top of just sort of the elation of being able to do that again, alongside the fact that it was a new Bill and Ted movie that I'd kind of been waiting on for 30 years, this was not going to be a bad experience. I pretty much had a smile on my face the whole time. I am 1000% biased. I was there to have a good time, and I had a good time, so mission accomplished. But about the movie itself, I did go in with the mindset that, like, even if it's terrible, I'm just going to enjoy it. Again, this is just a thing that I have loved my whole life, and suddenly out of nowhere there's more of it, and I just wanted to have it. Even if it's not great, I don't care. And I really don't care. It's not a great movie. It's a Bill and Ted movie. All Bill and Ted movies are just kind of silly. They're silly, fun movies, and you have to just kind of enjoy them. And that's what I did with this one. Like the Red Letter Media guys described Bill and Ted movies as dumb movies slightly elevated. And I think that's a good way of putting it, because they are very dumb movies, but the concepts in them are pretty good. All right, so first of all, Alex Winter killed it. Alex Winter stole this movie. A lot of people don't know that Alex Winter is actually, he kind of dropped off the map. He did the first two Bill and Ted movies. He had an MTV show called The Idiot Box, and he did a movie called Freaked. And this was, I think that was like 92 or 93 when he made Freaked, and then he just seemed to have disappeared. But he didn't disappear. He actually went behind the camera. He's become a pretty accomplished, especially documentary filmmaker. He's produced a lot of really big documentaries. And he's a talented filmmaker. But he hasn't stepped into the acting shoes in a long time. And to see him jump right back into that role and just nail it was really... that was really good to see. And it was also just fun seeing Keanu be funny again. It's funny. It's easy to forget that Keanu Reeves started off in comedy. He was like, whoa, he was that whoa dude guy, in the early 90s. And then he kind of went into the darker stuff. He did Speed, which was the first action movie that he was in. And I think a lot of people at the time were like, Keanu Reeves in an action movie, what? And then he did The Matrix, and went into the even darker stuff like the Constantine movies and the John Wick movies. And now he's like this action, icon. And to see him go back and be a silly, goofy dude again was actually, I think he actually kind of had a little bit more trouble getting back into it than maybe Alex Winter did. But I think he did okay. Alex stepped back into it, I think, a lot more easily than Keanu did, but it was just fun to kind of see him in that kind of role again. So the daughters, played by Samara Weaving and what is it, Bridget Lundy Payne, I never can get her name right. I thought they were good. They were better than I thought. I was really worried that they were just going to be doing Bill and Ted impressions the whole time, which they kind of were, especially Bridget Lundy Payne, who played Ted's daughter Billy, which, by the way, that got super confusing to me, because Ted's daughter is named after Bill and Bill's daughter is named after Ted. The daughters are more like musical savants. Like they've just like got this encyclopedic knowledge of music, and that comes into play later, which was kind of interesting, because the ending focused less on musicians and more on like producers. I don't want to give away too much, but I I thought that was kind of a neat nod to a very important part of the musical process that doesn't normally get the spotlight that much. The princesses carry on the tradition of having almost no influence in the story whatsoever. It feels like they cut something out. There was like a side plot with the princesses kind of also doing a little time travel thing, but I think there were 3 different things going on. There was, and I'm not spoiling too much here, but Bill and Ted are going to find their future selves to try to find who had the actual song that was going to change the world. So they're traveling in time that way. The daughters are going back in time, trying to find musicians to help create a band that would actually play this song to save the world. And the wives, the princesses, go off on a little time travel journey, and we never really see what happened with them. They just kind of go, and then they pop up a couple of times, and then I feel like there was an entire story there that got cut out, which might make sense because it's a pretty short movie. Like, it's actually under 90 minutes long. So I feel like there was a whole thing that they did with the wives, and then they just cut it out for some reason. And maybe that's like the inside joke that the princesses never have any actual story or purpose in a movie. And I really enjoyed the message of the film, which is basically, this might dig into spoiler territory a little bit, so skip ahead a little. But it turns out at the end of the film, they spent the last 30 years trying to craft the perfect song that was going to unite the universe. And it kind of turns out in the end, it's not really about the song. It was about bringing everybody together throughout space and time, playing the song together. And that's what saves the universe. And yeah, I mean, it's, again, on the nose, but isn't that kind of the message that we need right now in this incredibly divisive time? The idea that, what really is going to save us is coming together and working together and solving things together. And also the movie just kind of ends. Like, it literally just ends. And you're kind of sitting there going, whoa, okay, I guess I will leave the theater now. It seems the movie is over. There is an end credits thing. At the end of the credits, there's a fun little skit that they put at the end. It's worth sticking around for. But overall, I liked it. I really liked how they let the characters age and become dads. And they're not exactly the same as they were 25 years ago. None of us are. And I think they did a good job of letting you feel the weight that they've been carrying this whole time. Imagine being told when you're 18 years old that you have this destiny to fulfill that will change the world and save the universe and bring everyone together. I mean, imagine being told that when you're 18 years old, and then your entire life feeling like you haven't been able to do this thing. I think they did a good job of portraying that, So one last thought, again, this might be slightly spoilerish, but the way they explain how they went from the end of Bogus Journey, like doing the Battle of the Bands and making it look like that was the moment that like they were that was their destiny that they fulfilled. What happened? Well, what happened is what happened to every other hair metal band from that time. They just faded into obscurity, just like all of them did, right? So like in the movie, these guys were like, I don't know, Warrant, right? They were like Warrant. They had their moment, and they had maybe an album or two that blew up, and then they, disappeared, faded into obscurity, and are now playing, state fairs and stuff. And it's just kind of like this sad has-been kind of thing. And I started thinking about, like, so at the end of the movie, again, not to spoil too much, but they kind of bring the world together with this song and everything. But I started thinking, like, imagine if it was in reality, and everything was falling apart, and then one band played a song that saved all of space and time, and then you go and you're like, who is this band? And that band turned out to be Warrant. What, like the Cherry Pie guys? I thought that was a funny way of looking at it. But anyway, yes, I enjoyed the movie. I recommend it. William Sadler was great as Death. He always steals the show. Anthony Carrigan played a robot named Dennis that is absolutely hilarious. It's not quite as inventive as Bogus Journey. It's not quite as fun or fresh as Excellent Adventure. There were some things about it that I kind of liked better. As somebody who is the, roughly the age of the guys in there, and I've aged a little bit. Some of the stuff that they've been through and what they talk about, it hits a little differently. It hits a little bit more real, I guess. So in that regard, I feel like I might have liked this one even better in some ways. But anyway, I do recommend it. I enjoyed it. If you are a fan of Bill and Ted, go see it. Don't expect the best movie ever made. It's still a Bill and Ted movie. It's just fun. Just go have fun. All right, and that's all I've got to say about that. So for all of you who've been asking if I've seen the movie, there's your answer. That's what I thought of it. And yeah, tell me if you saw it in the comments. If you liked it, didn't like it, discuss. I might chime in myself, but cool. Hope you guys are doing well. Catch you next time. Peace. So I think I could also just talk really quickly about some of the things that I got wrong and the things that I got right in my predictions for the Bill and Ted movie. But yeah, in various places, I analyzed the trailers, and I thought I had a good idea of what was going to happen, and I got some of them right, some of them wrong. So here's the list. Here's the breakdown. Okay, one of the things I got right, and I don't know if I ever said this publicly, but I definitely had it in my head, and this is a major spoiler, so tune out if you don't want the ending spoiled. But I had an idea, I had an opinion, a prediction that it wasn't actually going to be Bill and Ted that wrote this song that would unite the universe. It would actually be their daughters. And the reason I thought that was because in the trailer, multiple times they were referred to as Preston Logan, that the prophecy of who brings the people together was Preston Logan. They didn't say Wild Stallions. They said Preston Logan in the trailers to this one. In the previous movies, they said Wild Stallions. Anyway, I had predicted that in my head. I kind of saw that coming, and it turns out, yes, that's exactly what happens. So they kind of explain it away as that there was this prophecy, and Rufus's interpretation of this prophecy was that it was Wild Stallions, that it was, Bill S. Preston Esquire and Ted Theodore Logan that wrote this song, and he was basically off by a generation. It turns out that it was their daughters. So I kind of saw that coming, so I was right about that one. Something I got wrong, and I'm very upset that I got this wrong because I was very public about it. I went on Twitter and I said that, first of all, I was really happy to see that Beck Bennett from Saturday Night Live was playing Deacon, Ted's younger brother. I thought that was fantastic. And my prediction was that at some point in the movie, there would be a callback to one of the big lines that Deacon had. He didn't have a whole lot of lines. He only had a few. But the big major line that Deacon had in Excellent Adventure was, when Ted was like, "Do you realize you stranded Napoleon, one of Europe's greatest leaders in San Dimas?" And he just goes, "He was a dick." And I knew with every core of my being that the Deacon played by Beck Bennett was going to, at some point in this movie, say he was a dick about someone. I even went on Twitter and said I would bet anything that's going to happen, and I was wrong. That didn't happen. Very upset about it. Still very upset about it. All right, something I got right was that in the footage, in the trailers, you can see them like performing at a wedding. It's very clearly a wedding. My prediction was that it was going to be Missy getting married, because that's like the whole thing that Missy's character does. She marries Bill's dad in the first one. She marries Ted's dad in the second one. At the very end of the credits of Bogus Journey, it says that she marries Chuck DeNomolos. I was like, this is going to be Missy's wedding. Is going to be like her 20th wedding or something, and that's going to be a nice, fun little callback. And I knew that Amy Storch was in, or is it Storch? I never know what I'm saying right. I knew she was in the movie. So I assumed that it was going to be her wedding. I was right about that. Something I did not see coming, again, spoilers, was that she was going to be getting married to Deacon, the younger brother, which is actually perfect and hilarious. And it kind of calls back to Bogus Journey, where they were talking about, you could be your own stepdad. And they play off of like, you're your own son, and stuff like that. Anyway, that was brilliant. I'm glad they did it that way. I didn't quite see that coming, but I did get the wedding thing right. So kudos to me. Something else I got wrong was that, in the trailer, you can see that they go and they see multiple different versions of themselves in the future. There's the, buff prison guys, and there's the kind of foppish dude with the top hat and everything. And my interpretation of that was that it was going to go into like the multiverse. I really thought the multiverse was going to be a big part of this movie. that like basically it's kind of like a sliding doors thing. If you've seen the movie Sliding Doors, it's got Gwyneth Paltrow in it. She basically misses a train, and then her life kind of splits into two different directions, where it goes one direction where she made the train, and it goes the other direction where she doesn't make the train. And I thought it'd be that kind of thing. Like you would see all these different versions of themselves in the future, like a multiverse kind of thing, depending on which paths their lives go in. I was wrong about that. Again, spoiler territory, but I thought there was going to be like multiple dimensions and multiple realities and stuff, and it was actually, they kept going further and further ahead in time, and these characters changed that much on sort of a linear timeline. Of course, it kind of turns around in the script later and says that all time is happening at the same time in a superposition, which is a different take on it. But yeah, it was actually a lot more nuanced and different than I was expecting. I thought it'd just be like a multiverse thing, and it got a little bit more in the weeds than that. And another little tiny thing that I got wrong was that I thought in the beginning of the movie that their marriages were in trouble, which is true. But I thought that they like hopped in the time machine, the phone booth with the princesses, and went on a time adventure to kind of try to rekindle things or something, and in the process screwed something up. And that's why time starts falling apart and reality falls apart. And that's when the future comes calling and is like, we need to talk to you, because it's like, you screwed this up and now you've got to go fix it. Turned out that wasn't what happened at all. It's just the time just kind of ran out, basically, is what it comes down to. Although it was the moment in the film when they both kind of come to this like, oh, we need to stop doing this. Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. That's when the future comes calling. So I kind of feel like maybe it was like that moment when they decided they were going to just stop trying to do it, that everything kind of really fell apart because now it just wasn't going to happen. But yeah, I was wrong about that. So one other thing that has to be called out is the makeup in this film. We've all seen the scenes from the jail where they're all buffed out and everything. Yes, that was done incredibly well, but really there were many different cases where they had makeup effects applied to them. Especially there's a scene at the end where they kind of meet their far future selves, where they're like, I don't want to say on their deathbed, but they're probably in the beds they're going to die in. They're very, very, very old. And the makeup was incredibly well done in that scene. And I think there's a little bit of poignancy to that scene that one might expect if you were to travel forward in time and meet your oldest version of yourself in your final, years. And there's a poignancy there that can be lost if the makeup doesn't sell the effect. But this makeup totally sells the effect. I mean, that to me, that was way even better than the makeup at the prison scene. Like it was spectacularly well done. So I actually watched it again last night in preparation for the interview that will probably be coming out about the same time that you're watching this. I actually got to talk to Spiros Mikalakis, who was the science advisor and consultant on the quantum stuff involved in this, and he also was an advisor on some of the Marvel movies, including Infinity War and Endgame. I didn't know that until I started talking to him. I was like, wow, awesome. But anyway, no, I kind of watched it again in preparation, and I think when I first watched it in the theater, I was just trying to enjoy it, and I was just kind of. And a lot of it was also kind of going through the things that I was expecting and being sort of surprised and whatnot. But to just kind of sit down and watch it again, I'm going to admit there were a couple of points where I got a little, because especially toward the end when they're kind of like finally happening, this thing's finally happening for them. And there's definitely some moments in there. I said when I watched the first trailer that seeing Ted say that he's tired is just so heartbreaking. And it's true in the film too. Like you can just see he's just so worn down. The weight of this burden they've been given their entire lives is really weighing on them. Anyway, it was well done. But especially at the end, they did a thing where they took submissions from people playing air guitar, which I thought sounded really corny. I didn't know about it until afterwards, so I didn't submit anything if anybody's wondering. But I heard that and I was kind of like, it sounds like some dumb, compilation video for YouTube or whatever. But they threw it together with, different effects and with music and everything at the end of the movie. And it actually worked really, really well. Again, with everything that's going on and all the division in the world right now, it just felt really great to come out of that movie both times that I watched it with this fun, universal, just expression of joy that all these people are doing across all different cultures and abilities and races and everything and places and they're all playing together and it's just fun and it's like, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody else in the world, but I know I really needed to hear a message like that. And at times in the film, it was pretty on the nose and maybe even cheesy is a good word to use. But you know what? We need some sincerity. We need some levity in the world right now. I had said before that I feel like Bill and Ted was the last gasp of sincerity before the 90s took over. The irony of the 90s, like everything in the 90s was so ironic and just dripping with sarcasm and cynicism, you know, like that just kind of took over in the 90s and it's kind of been in some form of that ever since. But Bill and Ted were so just innocent and naive and just bros and they were sweet and they were genuine and they were sincere. It was like the last gasp of sincerity. And I'm happy to say that they kept that feeling with this film and that was definitely a very core element of the first two films. They brought that back in this one. And it's shocking. It's shocking to see sincerity and innocence and just happiness displayed anymore. You almost don't trust this feeling of hope, optimism. What is this, you know? But anyway, I have talked for way too long about Bill and Ted, and nobody's going to watch this video, according to what happened in the previous ones. But I do have an interview coming out probably about the same time that you're seeing this on the main channel. I interviewed Spiros Mikalakis, who was the science consultant, and it was fantastic. I actually just got finished recording it, and I spent most of the video, most of the interview, just kind of like trying to process what he's telling me here. He was going really in depth on some pretty deep stuff. But ultimately, I feel like he's the right guy to consult on a Bill and Ted movie because he talks about how like quantum theory requires empathy to be able to see things from multiple perspectives and whatnot, and how important that is today. So anyway, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's on the main channel. I thought it was fascinating. He's a super smart dude, and I was just trying to keep up. So maybe I managed. Luckily, he was able to just kind of talk, and I was able to sit there and just kind of let him do his thing and maybe just kind of guide the conversation. But anyway, go check that out. I'm going to stop talking now. I got food coming, so hope you guys are doing well. I'll catch you next time. Party on, dudes.